Running a design studio is quite exciting. You really never know what's going to come in the door next. Recently, we've had some exciting projects. But lately, we have one project that came through that door, and man, that is about as exciting as it can get.
Here in Southwest Florida tonight, Ian struck as a Category 4 hurricane, just shy of a Category 5 24 hours ago.
There was a terrible hurricane a few years ago back in Florida, and a lovely one of 375 P1s got caught up in it. One of the worst sights you can imagine if you love cars is a P1 being washed down a street, completely destroyed, waterlogged, drowned. And that car was pretty much what we would consider a goner. And a gentleman by the name of Freddie Tavares, as he's known, bought that car.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just bought a $2 million McLaren P1 that was destroyed in a flood.
Freddie's taken that leap of faith and basically began to restore it to that level that that car merits. But he's not only stopped there, he's actually going further, and his goal is to make it the fastest P1 in the world. And he's come to us to work on that.
How you doing, mate? You okay?
Aha, now we can start. Hi. Yo. How was your flight?
Hi, boss.
Good?
Nice to see you.
Yeah. So that is in itself probably one of the most exciting projects that we as a studio could work on.
Can you remember the actual conversation, how he kind of broke that?
Yeah. The message was, you know, I've rescued this P1 that probably nobody believes in me that I can actually restore. So I want to prove a point, and I want to do it justice. But at the same time, I want it to look absolutely amazing. I want to set the level a bit higher on this car in terms of what it can do. So all that kind of stuff resonated with me because it showed me that there was going to be an opportunity to actually work on it again. Designers are never satisfied. We always want a second bite of the apple, as they call it. We have crazy talent in our studio and an opportunity to actually take that P1 if we were to go at it again with a bit more technology, a bit more understanding of the world of car design, of what needs to be done aerodynamically to achieve high speed. All those kind of things that you learn over a certain period of time, we could take that and apply it to Freddie's car. And Freddie was giving us almost a clean sheet. The objective is take as much of the character of the original P1 and go for it. Nice. You know, it's got the Swarovski crystals in it.
And the paint.
In the clear lacquer.
That's unbelievable.
In the clear lacquer.
Unbelievable. Right, so we start at the front, work our way backwards?
Yeah. So when I sat down with a team and we started putting our heads together about what the right or the best solution potentially could be for the brief of the fastest P1, obviously this led us into the direction of controlling the air around the vehicle, around the car. And not that the P1 isn't, say, aerodynamic, it's just that it hasn't been optimized for high speed. When you do a car that needs to be optimized for high speed, you're going to compromise a lot of other aspects, cornering, perhaps a stabilization in different aspects of when you're driving the car, but straight line speed means something completely different. So obviously that led us directly to what some of the fastest cars in the world have, which is a very long body.
We knew that it had to be a long tail for sure. But at the same time, it had to be more than just a long tail, because the long tail is simply extending the tail bit to make for like a more streamlined silhouette.
The long tail and how to follow in the original shape and try to be coherent with the original P1.
One of the defining features of the P1 is that sort of low rear end. So a lot of supercars will finish very high at the rear, so it's quite dramatic. They're always going from low to high, from front to rear. Whereas the P1 does not the opposite, but it goes significantly down after the rear wheels. It really gives the car a lot of character. So in a way, we've tried to retain that, but also exaggerate it in some way with the long tail. So rather than returning up or doing a ducktail, we've extended the rear to retain that channel, that valley in the centre that gives the P1 so much character. And from a rear view, gives the car a really good stance on the road because the wheels appear more powerful, the rear muscles higher.
Making a long tail and with the same refinement of surfacing that has the original, which was a complex job because in order to get the same feeling, it was difficult to fit all the elements.
The shrink wrapping is one of the strong themes of McLaren's design DNA since early 2010s, and it's something that I have a huge amount of respect for. So we want to really minimise the area that we're taking up because then we're more efficient, we go further, we go faster. Doing a long tail version is obviously we are adding something to the car, but it's for good reasons, to give the car more stability at high speed. So by increasing the length of the car, moving the active aero slightly rearwards, then we're trying to sort of retain the original theme by giving it a new function.
So that led to a few other factors. Obviously, guiding the wind is going to be quite important. So we need to make sure that the surfacing of the long tail works with the current surfacing of the rear end. So you're going to end up with something perhaps that tightens up as it goes towards the rear, much like a sort of if you look at a raindrop form, you'll see that the rounded, say, softer surfaces at the front, whereas it tapers off into almost a sharp end. So that could work as well. So we're looking at how natural forms work when they're designed for speed. And that's going to reflect itself into the P1's rear design mostly.
But at the same time, we wanted to see if we could add a wing without making it look like it slapped on. It had to look like it was it belonged there. That was a challenge, and that's how we got about to trying to come up with a new wing shape, which resulted in the Delta wing. The Delta wing was not going to be an easy component to execute because it stood out in more ways than one. But at the same time, the Delta wing was probably the most extreme that we could go about with intervening with the design.
That at the beginning we went too extreme, maybe a bit too bulky. So we went for a really thin, lightweight trim on the rear. The line of the fin has to go with the line of the side of the P1, which it was a bit difficult because at the beginning you try to make something straight, but the car is not straight at all. It has a lot of shapes, and everything has to speak to each other.
At the front end of the car, we're looking at closing off a lot of the openings because openings just create drag if they're not handled properly or not designed to want the air to come in the front that way into a hole, into an opening. So what we've done is try to minimize the size of the openings of the intakes in the front of the car because we don't need them at that high speed, and it does improve the aerodynamics.
In the whole car, everywhere is the logo in the shapes. So we try to make kind of the same idea for this area.
We're trying to evacuate air from highly turbulent areas of the car that can cause drag. So we're opening up the top of the wheel wells on the front wheels. The hood area, we're looking at getting the air out much more efficiently than we have it currently. So we're opening up the air vents on the bonnet. You have to be careful when we design those that they not only work well, but they're efficient in terms of guiding the air around the car the way we want it to do. At the end of the day, we've come up with an idea that perhaps I think is going to achieve the results we're looking for. There's no reason why it shouldn't. At the same time, because it's quite dramatic, I think when people see it in real life in one-to-one scale, it's going to blow a lot of people away in terms of why haven't McLaren perhaps done something like this to the P1 and taken it, another step higher. But I think it shows the potential of a very good design team, not only being satisfied with what has been done, but wanting always to improve the product even to a higher level than what is existing at the moment. Freddie was expecting me to show up on the day with a napkin sketch, just one idea, basically a rough ideation sketch of what this could look like.
And all of a sudden we came back to him with 3 different proposals, full of renders, full of ideas.
We never go into a discussion empty-handed. It's not in our nature to do that.
By showing them 3 distinct possibilities, we were stretching the bandwidth, I guess, of possibilities of what this car could actually look like. The P1 Evo, as we started to call it, is something that basically does do justice to the P1 if McLaren had ever gone another step further, you know, was quicker, was more exciting than the P1 itself. So that brief, that challenge was, you know, you can't turn it down. You can't say no to something like that.
It's surreal. I often have to pinch myself with where I've ended up as a designer. You couldn't write it. If someone said when the P1 came out 10 years ago, you're going to get a chance to do that again with the guy who led the company's design team at the time. So it's really an unbelievable opportunity, and that's one of the perks of being with a guy like Frank.
It's a dream. It's a dream of every car designer. It's something incredible.
With every sketch that I was doing, I was trying to put myself in the age that I was when the P1 first came out. And I would ask myself, like, what would this make your childhood self excited?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm thrilled to have this chance to take a car that otherwise would probably be, you know, forgotten about because it was destroyed, but actually getting it back into the world in a way that was probably more dramatic than when it first came out. What I'm going to be doing here with my team is developing a design for a car that is going to get worldwide attention. And it's also going to be seen as a success or not a success. And I think that challenge in itself is giving me a lot of motivation to continue what I've always loved doing, car design. But that is what makes a project like this very special.
You know, being able to show what we do as a studio is also cool, because I think a lot of people don't get to see the full process, whereas we've got the opportunity to show that. And it's not just, you know, jumping to a 3D render of the finished car. We get to show all the work behind the scenes, and that's the real story, and that's the real value of these projects.